Hello and welcome. With update 6.66, id Software released the very highly requested Horde mode instead of the previously anticipated Invasion mode. Now, Horde mode has been received very positively by the community, although I find it to be pretty boring. I'm just kidding. It's actually really good, and I'm very impressed and I'm very happy. And I very much appreciate what id Software have done with Horde mode. It is a very well-made mode. But, and there's a very big but here, there are some major issues and concerns I have with this new mode, along with other content creators that share my concerns. In this video, I'll be providing my constructive feedback directly to the developers about my experiences with the new mode and what things they could possibly try to do to improve this mode even further. Now, unfortunately, I still have to make this disclaimer, even though it goes without saying. If you're someone that gets offended by different opinions or someone providing constructive feedback, then this video is not for you. Anyways, let's begin. So I will be making a review of Horde mode itself, but that will be in a separate video. This video is mostly dedicated to the developers to provide them with constructive feedback. So when you start Horde mode, you start off with the combat shotgun fully maxed out and with all of the armor and sentinel crystal upgrades as well. As you complete each arena, you will then be given a random weapon at the end for you to use in the next arena. And this is where the majority of my main problem is. I've played this mode roughly 3 to 4 times now, and each time I play it, I dislike the randomized weapon system even more. It feels clunky and it feels as though it arbitrarily makes the gameplay unfun in order to give some sense of difficulty or longevity. It doesn't make sense to have a leaderboard, even though I don't care about the leaderboard, but I do know people that do care. It doesn't make sense for you to have randomized weapons because you have now introduced an element of RNG that will determine your final score, not your skill. Now, you personally might like the randomized weapon system, which is fine and that's perfectly valid, but I don't. It does not mesh well with my gameplay and it makes the mode even more frustrating. I've seen people bring the argument that the mode forces you to try out different combinations and such, and while that is very much true and that may work for you, it doesn't work for everyone else. Anyone that has been watching my content and any of my previous feedback videos, I've made one thing very clear. You should never force the player to do something, but you should always incentivize them so that they want to do it themselves. For example, the Sentinel Hammer, or as I call it, the Anvil Hammer, is a perfect example of this. The other counter argument I have is that ever since the game's release, all post-release content like the DLCs and the master levels give you all the weapons and all of the upgrades right from the beginning. And as we're approaching 2 years of Doom Eternal, the people that are still playing have become very accustomed to their playstyles and mod choices. People that are still playing have been playing a fully maxed out character for a much longer amount of time than they had played the base campaign. Therefore, it seems quite unreasonable to try to force these players to play in a different way. This is why I always say that developers need to give players more choices, because more choices is always a good thing. Now, instead of me complaining about it and leaving it at that, here are my constructive solutions to potentially fix this problem. The first solution is to add a new option for players and rename the current Horde mode iteration into Classic Horde mode, because the Classic iteration is very similar to Classic mode when doing a master level. The normal Horde mode version will then have all of the upgrades and weapons from the beginning, and it can be balanced as such. You can also separate the two leaderboards and people can then compete for whichever one they want to pursue. My other solution is to make it similar to the base campaign. So for your very first time, you play Horde mode with randomized weapons. This would give you a good idea as to how this mode functions and everything you'll be doing. Once you've played through the entire thing once, the next time you play it, you can then have the option of a new game plus, giving you the option of having all of the upgrades and all of the unlocks. Now, I know some people might say that since, you play on PC or whatever, you can then just wait for mod makers to fix these problems or introduce these new modes. Now, while I do agree with that, I don't like the concept of relying on modders to fix accessibility issues that the developers need to be doing in the first place. The modders should not be responsible for fixing the problems of the developers. That is why this video is primarily dedicated to the developers. Regardless, these two are my solutions, which I find to be pretty fair and reasonable solutions. Let me know in the comments below if you disagree or agree with them. If you have any other constructive feedback, make sure to let me know, as I will try my best to send this video directly to the developers. Now, my next minor concern, and I mean it is very, very minor, is that there seems to be quite a massive downtime between each wave. For example, when you finish a wave, it then waits for a few seconds and then you see the hologram of the wave that is about to begin. Then it takes a few more seconds for the next wave to begin. I think that while I agree with the idea that this was mostly for the casual players that may become overwhelmed, if you're playing at a higher difficulty, chances are you are very accustomed to the stresses that the game brings, and therefore having these sort of long downtimes between each wave is a bit distracting, I guess, or I guess a little bit boring. It slows down the pacing, but I think that with just some minor tweaks, this mode can become far more fast-paced without it being too overwhelming. My next very minor concern is that in the Blitz arenas, there are no fodder demons whatsoever. Now, I know that there are respawning ammo pickups and armor and health pickups as well, but when there are so many enemies around you, they're kind of hard to see sometimes. And not only that, they are kind of difficult to access when there are too many enemies standing right on top of the pickup. And that's pretty much my main concern with the Blitz runs. Otherwise, the Blitz runs are fantastically well made and I thoroughly enjoy them, all of them. Now, for my next main concern is that the Marauders don't seem to be faltering as much as they should, especially the possessed Marauders. I'm not sure what happened with the AI or anything like that, but whenever I am in Reclaimed Earth or even in the Holt, I have noticed so many times that the Marauder just does not get faltered, and this has happened to me multiple times in a row. Now, some people might say, well, you might be on an inclined surface, but that's not the case. In my experience, I have been on a flat surface and the Marauder still does not get faltered. So I really hope that you guys check this out and maybe fix this, because it really gets frustrating sometimes. And one more thing that doesn't function as much as it used to, again, is the Blood Punch. It fails on enemies that are susceptible to it, like the Cursed Prowler, the Spectre Pinkies, and the normal Pinkies. There was one instance where I tried to Blood Punch a Cursed Prowler roughly 4 to 5 times and it did not happen at all. It managed to target a fodder that was next to him, basically wasting the charge that I had. And I've read the same reports from other people that are experiencing the same problem, so hopefully id Software can solve this problem in a timely manner. If you want to see more, make sure to click on the playlist in the middle of your screen. If you want to see my latest uploads, click on the top left, or if you want to let YouTube's algorithm decide, click on the top right. And as always, I will see you in the next video.